The moment I stepped onto the wraparound porch of my new lakeside cabin, I knew I'd found a slice of heaven on earth. The sun hit the water just right, a million tiny diamonds dancing across the surface, and the fresh, cool air smelled of wet pine and opportunity. Then, a woman with a perfectly coiffed blonde bob and a stare that could curdle milk marched across her manicured lawn and bellowed, "You're blocking my view." I just stood there, my unpacked boxes still waiting in the truck, my jaw ajar. What in the world is she talking about? Couldn't help but think. My cabin, nestled in the trees, was a good 30 yards from hers and offered an expansive, unobstructed vista of the entire lake. But to her, a single, insignificant corner of her world had been altered, and she was having none of it. Her name, I would soon learn, was Sharon, and she was the undisputed queen of this quiet little cove. She treated the lakefront like her own personal fiefdom, and any newcomer was a potential peasant to be subjugated. The first few weeks were a confusing whirlwind of passive-aggressive notes left on my mailbox. "Your lawn gnome's a public nuisance. Your barbecue smoke is disturbing my zen," and her constant, judging presence. A silent, disapproving figure in her window, a ghostly sentinel of suburban entitlement. I tried to be nice. I really did. I offered her a freshly baked pie, which she accepted with a grudging, tight-lipped humph. The next day, she called the Homeowners Association to complain about my unauthorized yard ornaments, which were just a couple of flower pots. It was relentless, an emotional siege that slowly chipped away at the tranquility I had so desperately sought. I'd wake up to the chirping of birds and the gentle lapping of the waves, only to feel my stomach tighten with a familiar dread. What was she going to do today? One afternoon, I was sitting on my porch, just listening to the sound of a speedboat in the distance, when my phone buzzed. It was an email from the Homeowners Association. Sharon had filed a formal complaint. She claimed my cabin, due to its unconventional placement, violated a community covenant by significantly obstructing the natural aesthetic and scenic vistas of my neighbor. I scoffed. My cabin was a quaint little bungalow, barely visible from her massive, 3-story mansion. Is she for real? A wave of something hot and unfamiliar rushed through me. It wasn't just annoyance anymore. It was a simmering, righteous fury. I needed to see this complaint for myself, to understand what insane logic she was operating on. I pulled up the HOA's digital archives, searching for the covenant she cited, and that's when I found it. It was an old, forgotten rule from the 1970s, designed to prevent giant, garish cabins from being built too close to the water. But there was a loophole, tiny, exquisite detail she had missed. The covenant made a single, crucial exception. Boathouses or private docks are exempt from height restrictions, provided they are built to code. A slow, malicious grin spread across my face. The very next morning, I was on the phone with a local architect, a man who seemed to specialize in building ridiculously over-the-top structures. "I want to build a boathouse," I said, my voice low and a little too calm. "It needs to be beautiful, functional, and 5 stories tall." There was a beat of silence on the other end, and I could hear the rustle of papers before he finally responded, a conspiratorial laugh in his voice. "Sir, I think I know just the thing." We spent the next month meticulously planning. The designs were a work of art, stunning. Multi-level structure with a boat lift on the ground floor, a spacious deck on the second, a cozy lounge on the third, and a rooftop patio on the fourth. The top level, with its perfect, panoramic view, was for me. The entire design was a passive-aggressive monument. Perfect, exquisite screw you to Sharon. As the trucks rolled in and the heavy machinery began to hum, I could practically feel her seething from her window. The sound of the pile driver was a triumphant, rhythmic drumbeat against the silence of the cove. Every clank, every shudder, was a note in a symphony of sweet retribution. I'd stand on my porch with a cup of coffee and just watch, a quiet smile on my face, while Sharon's face grew redder with each passing day. She tried everything. She called the building inspector, who, after a thorough review, found every single detail to be perfectly to code. She tried to rally the other neighbors, but they'd already had their fill of her overbearing ways. She even confronted the construction foreman, waving a printed copy of the Homeowners Association bylaws and shrieking about property rights, only to be calmly informed that everything was above board. Her screams, I have to admit, were the sweetest music I had ever heard. The air became thick with her frustration, palpable, suffocating tension that hung over her yard like a thundercloud. And then, it was done. The final panel was put into place, and the 5-story boathouse stood there, a grand, unapologetic structure of wood and steel. It was magnificent. From my porch, I could see it in all its glory, and beyond it, the beautiful lake I had so fallen in love with. But from Sharon's living room window, her scenic vista was gone, replaced, in its entirety, by a 5-story wall of my triumph. I saw her then, standing there, a ghost of her former self, staring blankly at the new view from her massive picture window. The sun, which had once glinted on the water for her, now glinted off the polished wood of my boathouse. The sound of her sighs, I imagined, was the only thing she could hear. She had tried to steal my peace, to make my slice of heaven into her personal purgatory, and in doing so, she had unwittingly helped me create a monument to the very justice she sought to deny. The lake was still beautiful, but now, a little bit of karma shimmered on the water, too.